Firearms, like every machine in this world, are permanently subject to possible failure of any of their components, regardless of their degree of reliability or durability, and even more so if they are not used correctly or if they are not properly maintained. These devices can thus incur in a very wide variety of incidents, from the most mundane and easily correctable to the most catastrophic and dangerous. In this video, I have given myself the task of collecting the 5 that occur most frequently, as well as their possible causes and potential consequences, so that if you are a beginner in this regard, you know how to identify them, or better yet, prevent them. However, you must bear in mind that the lower the quality of the weapon, the greater the probability that any of these failures will occur, even if you have taken all the possible precautions. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the US Marines. Let's see the 5 most common failures in firearms.
Number 5, feed failure. An event that occurs when a cartridge is not properly transferred from the magazine into the chamber, getting stuck midway, either partially inserted into the barrel or outright failing to even come close properly at the chamber entrance, but in both cases preventing the bolt or slide of the rifle or pistol from closing completely, thus preventing the gun from working at all until the shooter manually opens the mechanism and removes the jammed cartridge. This type of failure may be due to a defective, damaged, or misplaced magazine that is of poor quality and therefore does not correctly align the cartridge with the chamber, or that has a spring that is stiff or too soft that does not propel the ammunition into the gun with the ideal force. Without, however, another possible cause of a power failure is excessive dirt accumulation in or around the chamber that contributes to ammunition jamming or sticking before fully entering said component. Similarly, the cartridge itself may also be the culprit in such incidents. If it is a poor quality and therefore its warhead does not have a completely regular shape, thus contributing to getting stuck during the process. Finally, these failures can also be generated if the slide or bolt of the weapon does not close with due force, either by a weak or worn recoil spring, or because the user interfaces in some way with said movement, usually by stopping it with the hands. Number 4, clearly misfires. An error that occurs when the user pulls the trigger and the gun does not fire, leaving the cartridge inside of this without having produced any potentially very dangerous deflagration if you don't know how to handle it. This failure can occur in 2 basic ways: when the primer in the cartridge is not hit by the pin of the weapon at all, or when it is hit but still does not deflagrate the powder. In the first case, the error may be due to the fault of the trigger or trigger that does not activate the hammer of the weapon correctly due to a broken or poorly placed component inside it. It is possible that although the trigger works properly, the hammer is blocked by some type of contaminant in a certain part of its travel, or that the firing POW is stuck inside the bolt due to excessive dirt. All of which must be inspected and cleaned by the shooter once the ammunition has been removed from the weapon. The needle is hitting the primer with less force than it should due to a partial clogging of its excessive dirt. Although it is somewhat more likely that the error is found within the cartridge itself, with its powder or primer being found to be deficient, much more commonly in rimfire ammunition than in central fire. With this type of failure, it is possible that the bullet or warhead, if it ends up firing after a few seconds due to the delayed ignition of the gunpowder inside the casing. So one thing you should never do in this situation is to point a weapon at an area where a spontaneous shot could cause harm to yourself or other people, thus turning this failure into a tragedy. Number 3, extraction failure. It happens when, after a successful shot, the percussion casing, already without powder and without ammunition, does not leave the chamber of the weapon and remains stuck halfway or completely stuck in interior, thus preventing the bolt or slide from closing again to load a new cartridge, quite common in guns. As they have not received maintenance for a long time and whose excessive dirt causes the casing to become partially or totally stuck in extraction failure. However, it can also occur when the recoil spring of the weapon is too weak, usually due to wear or design deficiency, thus preventing the bolt or slide from moving back far enough to allow the casing to leave the breech. This type of failure can also occur due to a broken or faulty extractor, in which case replacement if the component is necessary. Number 2, ejection failure. This is an event that also happens after a shot when the casing has already been successfully removed from the chamber but gets stuck halfway between it, and the slide bolt when trying to fully exit the firearms fire preventing, so a new cartridge is fed and fired. Therefore, the shooter must manually open the action of the weapon and discard the casing. This error is particularly annoying and disconcerting in the middle of a competition or a combat. Despite its great simplicity, it prevents the weapon from continuing to function completely until such faults are corrected. Ejection springs can be caused by overly stiff recoil springs not giving the casing enough time to self-inject before the bolt or slide snaps back into place, which however is usually easily corrected as the gun is used more and more or with a changing or tuning said spring. It is possible that the excessive wrist movement of a beginner shooter who still does not control the recoil of his pistol correctly causes his pistol to move upwards and backwards after a shot, trapping the cartridge in the slide with its way out of the gun, which is clearly easily corrected by adopt a better shooting technique. And as always, excessive dirt on the gun can also be to blame for an ejection failure by keeping the casing stuck for a fraction of a second inside, thus delaying its outward travel. Number 1, barrel obstruction. This implies that the fired ammunition cannot exit the weapon through this component due to a partial or total blockage of the same, either with dirt, mud, sand, snow, or water with excessive residues of lead and gunpowder, or with a previously fired projectile that has been the latter is usually stuck due to the insufficient energy produced by the powder of a defective or poor quality cartridge. Extremely dangerous if not taken care of immediately. The barrel obstruction will almost certainly cause the weapon to explode when the user tries to fire it, since they cannot get out. Through the mouth of the barrel, the projectile as well as the gases of deflagrating will seek the point of least resistance of the device to be released, frequently resulting in shattered barrels, chambers, and receivers. These failures can also take with them fingers, eyes, hands, and more by causing a catastrophic incident of such magnitude. So making sure your weapon is in optimal condition before using it is one of the basic safety rules that you should always keep in mind. Remember that the 2 minutes it takes to check the condition of your pistol, revolver, rifle, or shotgun are worth much more than spending the rest of your life with unfortunate permanent consequences on your body due to an oversight like this. Thanks for watching.